Hello and welcome back to my new channel where I will be talking about Real Housewives of Potomac and anything else that might be interesting that's happening on television. And this is the part two to my video titled Real Housewives of Potomac, who are these women? And one person I did not mention in the part one video was Ashley. And I didn't mention Ashley because there really isn't anything to tell. She was introduced in the episode 2, and I guess the only thing that they think is worth talking about where Ashley is concerned is there's a huge age difference between her and her husband, which I don't really think is an issue at all. He's in his 50s, she's in her 20s, but according to information online, they dated for 4 years before they got married. So that's not exactly a whirlwind romance or anything like that. You get to know someone in 4 years. What I do think is interesting, though, is Katie's explanation of why she is divorced. And she was saying that their personalities were too similar. And my thought about that is to call BS on that, because when you are dating someone for several years, you already know whether your personalities are similar. That's not something that you've suddenly uncover after you've walked down the aisle and you're husband and wife, that your personalities are so similar. And also, she mentions online in different places that she left her husband when she was 4 months pregnant. And then there was some other comment or some interview reported that she said that a lack of romance in the marriage was an issue. And I'm not sure if she's trying to allude to her ex-husband's homosexuality or something like that. But again, when you're dating somebody for several years, you know if there's chemistry between both of you, even if you're not sexually intimate with that person prior to marriage. So again, the reasons that she's giving for the dissolution of that marriage just seem very odd. And while we're talking about divorces, you know, Giselle's ex-husband has mentioned that nothing was wrong in his marriage, that they had a great marriage, but that he was just immature and that led to his cheating. And I have to call BS on that too. When you are madly in love with your partner, I don't care what other women are offering you. You do not succumb to that. You are not even interested in other women. It's not even an issue of emotional immaturity, because you can be emotionally immature and deeply in love with somebody. And so I think emotional immaturity isn't really the reason for infidelity. I think infidelity comes from a place of disrespect, really, and a deep-seated disrespect to violate someone's trust in that way, particularly when you're out there cheating and they're carrying your child. It's just a whole different level of disrespect. So I really think that even though her ex-husband chalks it up to immaturity, it really comes down to just a very high level of disregard and disrespect, because when someone gives you their trust and when someone is carrying your child for you and just a number of things, I think there's just a major dose of dishonoring that goes on to violate their trust and in their high regard for the level of commitment that exists in their marriage. And I just think no one wants to talk about that online, that we see these women who are beautiful, college educated, had careers, and got married, and then their husbands didn't honor them in terms of giving them the level of commitment that was really necessary and that they really had expectations for. And I just think that's so unfortunate, because you know, there's ratchet men out there, there's ratchet women out there, but I just think it's unfortunate to see women who are talented and beautiful and caring women, and women who are devoted mothers and who want to have families to be dishonored in marriage. And of course, when a marriage fails, there's not just one person to blame, but I just think that that is something that is very unfortunate. And the other point I wanted to make is there are some comments about Ashley being a gold digger, and other women, whenever a woman happens to marry a man or is dating a man who is at a different financial position than they are, or may have a higher public profile than they do, suddenly the gold digger label is tossed on them. But it isn't tossed on people like Nick Cannon when he married Mariah Carey, or it isn't tossed on people like that when J Lo has been dating a dancer at least twice. Those types of labels aren't tossed on men when men happen to be in relationships with women who have a larger financial status than they do, or a larger social profile than they do, or that certainly wasn't tossed around for Julia Roberts' husband, who she met on a movie set. So you don't hear those labels being hurled at men whenever they happen to date women who are more prominent than they are socially, and are wealthy and successful. And the other piece of that is, when women do it, it's assumed that they're interested in that man because of his money or because of his profile. And the fact of the matter is, just because a man may be wealthy and may be professionally prominent does not mean that if a woman isn't bringing professional prominence to the table or wealth to the table, that she's not bringing anything of value to that marriage. So to belittle any woman or even a man by saying there's nothing that they're really offering to the relationship because they're not at the same place professionally or financially as the person that they're marrying is really just kind of an ignorant, sweeping generalization about somebody else's relationship. You don't have to be at the same level financially. You don't have to be at the same age level. You don't have to have the same level of social prominence to have a relationship of value with someone. And so those things don't have to be equal. And just because a man happens to be wealthy and prominent doesn't mean that he doesn't have other needs that a woman who doesn't have those things cannot fill. So that's just another point that I wanted to bring up. And the final thing I wanted to bring up in this part 2 video is my correction. I said that I didn't think Ashley was college educated, and I am incorrect about that, because yes, she is. She is college educated, and she does at least have a bachelor's degree. Now, Karen, I'm not sure of, but the verdict is still out about what was Karen doing. She's been married for 19 years. We get that. But what was she's in her 50s, what was she doing in her life prior to, this marriage? It seems to be the only thing that she's sort of putting out there is that she's married to this guy, and there's just no other information about what she was doing professionally ever. And I just think that's so unusual. But anyway, thank you for tuning into part 2. Those were the only points that I didn't make in part 1 that I wanted to toss up. Please put comments in the comment section and let me know what you think. Also, tell me what you think about this cartoon that I'm using instead of raw footage. I'd certainly like to hear some feedback about that. And thanks again for watching a video, and stay tuned because I'll be putting out more videos.